So Tapia Leadership Academy started in 2010 as a summer enrichment program. Interestingly enough, it started with the idea and the notion and really the need that there were not enough support services that was academically rich, culturally rich, infused leadership development in it that was affordable and accessible to my family. I'm going to start with myself first. And then the more I began to talk to other family members, I began to realize that we weren't the only ones. At the time, I was completing my master's in business administration, and to be honest, when I went to go back to school, my idea was, and the reason I went back to school was to start a chain of salons. So something most people don't know about me is that I am a licensed cosmetologist. I've been an entrepreneur forever. It's just been in my blood. And I used to own a salon, Mahogany Metals in Urbana. That's not a shameless plug. It closed. I closed it when I went back to school, so it's fine. But the reason why is because I had the skills, the technical skills, but when it came to the business side, I felt I needed to learn more. So I went back to school and thought, you know, this will be awesome, and I don't want to be the one standing doing hair every day, all day. We'll expand, and we'll have a chain of hair salons. Well, while I was in school, obtaining my master's, my husband, full-time worker, of course I was still working. We have 3 children, and it came to be after school, I really wasn't available to assist them with their homework. Neither was my husband, because we work, not because we're just lazy bums and don't want to do it, or some of it was because we didn't know how, and that's just the truth. We're over 20, so some things we don't recall anymore. Yes, right, over 20. So there were a lot of reasons, a lot of factors why we just were not the best people to assist our own children at home academically. And then summer became even more of a challenge because, yes, we were still working and we were still in school. And so what do? The truth is we found that there were a number of programs that we did not qualify for on the high and low end. We were fortunate enough to expose our children to a number of activities and a number of family vacations and things like that. So they weren't completely deficit when it came to traveling and exposure, but there still was a need.
Can you say, like, when you say on high and low end, you mean some are too expensive?
Absolutely. You want me to just make it plain?
Poor enough to
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And that's just the reality. And so there is a large population of people who are in the middle. Yeah. And you know, you hear about all these services and all these programs and assessments and you know, surveys, and I'm going, nobody asked me. Yeah. Who are these people that are being surveyed about the needs? Because no one ever asked me. Yes, I'm African American and I'm female, but I didn't make the cut. Financially, we didn't make the cut. We were considered middle class. And so there's a large population of people that are underserved. And so even with that idea, the definition of underserved, we begin to redefine that. We are underserved. We were at that time, in a lot of ways we continue to be. So going back to the history just a little bit, while I was in school, every year it just continued to be a growing problem and a growing concern. And the more I talked to parents, you know, we were not the only ones. So that summer of 2010, when I was about to graduate, you know, I just got fed up and was like, enough is enough. You know, enough is enough. What do we do? And so in talking with my husband and other few family members, the decision was made that we needed to do something for ourselves, that we could not continue to wait for something to pop up out of nowhere. Who says that? Is it, I know President Obama, but I don't know who originally said it, be the change that you want to be or that you want to see. Who is it?
Originally.
It was it Gandhi?
Be the change you want to see in the world.
Absolutely. President Obama has made it famous. But that's the reality. We couldn't just keep waiting for someone to say, oh, hey, you know, we are thinking of you now. Here's a service for you. And so we created it. And we started intentionally with a very small group of students, 3 of my own children. And we were very clear in what we wanted to offer and just kind of looking at the deficits of what was not available. I know it was kind of a boing type experience, right? Like, what do we need? And as an active and engaging parent, we always wanted our children to be exposed to experiences outside of our home. I grew up on the west side of Chicago, however, I went to Lane Tech High School, which is up north. So while my backyard were people that looked like myself, every day I ventured out up north about an hour to experience a whole new world. And it truly opened me up to understanding that the world did not have to just look like myself and what I saw in the mirror, nor did it have to look like my circumstances. So that was really important to offer to not just our children, but all children that we came in contact with. And then understanding that education is not just about the books that you read and what you're experiencing today. We have to begin to develop leadership skills in our children today, right now, and recognize that they actually come into the world with certain gifts. It's our responsibility to develop them, to recognize what's in them, and to build upon that. And oftentimes, as educators and adults, we take the stance that we're the bigger I, and they're the little you. And it's more of, listen to what I say. And, you know, in our home, that could be problematic sometimes. We really raised some strong-minded children. And at times I thought, the hell am I thinking? No, it's what I say, you know. That really doesn't work if we're trying to build strong leaders. And so that became one of our 4 core pillars. So if you caught on, one was leadership development. The other is cultural awareness. And then literacy. It's so important. I mean, come on, if you can't read and comprehend, what can you do, really? And especially in today's society when our children, it's a microwave society, right? Everything is a quick text. They don't say the whole word. I got a text one time, and I said, thank you, and somebody put NP. I was like, what the heck is NP? Anybody knows what NP is? No problem. No, that's a shame that y'all know that. You educators, you shouldn't know that.
I'm sorry, did I text that to you?
No, I wasn't even gonna bust nobody out. You know, but that's a bit problematic. You know, our children learn shorthand in everything, and they begin to learn shortcuts in everything. And we can't shortcut in literacy. We just cannot. Books are becoming obsolete. And that kind of makes me sad. I know you technology people love everything online, and I think that's great for quick accessibility. But our children should still know how to reference table of content, you know. So literacy is extremely important, which is why that also became one of our 4 core pillars. And then service learning was the last one, and these 4 core pillars still remain. It is so important. I believed, and I still do, that we learn to appreciate the space we're in right now. So many times you hear people that live in impoverished communities especially say, I can't wait to get out. And when I graduate or when I leave and I get this big house and when I'm rich, then I'll do. That's problematic because the truth is, once you get out, most people typically don't like to come back. And they definitely don't want to come back and be hands-on within the community that they felt really didn't nurture them or invest anything in them. But that's a myth, and that's really, the flat-out truth is that's a lie, because we are all a product of where we come from, even if we don't necessarily like where we come from. And so for me, because I grew up on the west side of Chicago, and I will never deny that, I am so proud of my roots, even though so much about it I could not stand and still don't, and it saddens me. However, I gained so much strength and insight and resilience from growing up on the west side of Chicago. And I learned to appreciate those skills, which nurtured me and developed me into who I am today. And so it's important that regardless of where we see ourselves going, that we appreciate the foundation that we are right now. If you can't really grasp a hold of where you are now and see the connection of where you're going, you'll never really make it. Or if you get there, it's difficult to sustain it. So for that reason of sustainability, it's really important that the children that we serve right now, right here in Champaign-Urbana, now we're in Chicago, Arcola, and we'll talk about that a little bit later too. We're kind of all over. Wow. It's funny to say we're kind of all over, but we are. it's important that children understand where you are today, we have to invest in that space right now. Right now. And so, we look at what's around us, and not community service, not just picking up trash. That is viewed as more of a punishment. When you say community service, unfortunately, most people think of that and they think about a relative that's in prison, something they've seen on TV. They think about the orange jumpsuits. So this is something I'm forced to do. But when you say service learning, there's a bigger issue that's outside of your backyard, and it connects you to where you are right now. So that's why it's not community service for us, it's service learning. So, with that being said, the mission of Tap In is to enhance educational achievement, to support leadership development. You're so cute, Layla. And to raise cultural awareness in every scholar that we serve, every family member that we serve, because we want to make sure every young person is college and career ready by the time they graduate high school. So that's kind of how we started. You see, I get passionate about this, and I love seeing y'all faces, because y'all like, I didn't really think of that.
The last time you were here was 2011. So
it was 2011.
And I think you announced here, we didn't record that one, you announced here that you had just gotten a big grant.
I probably did, but you know what? It's like, what does money have to do with anything? What does money have to do with anything, right? Because I didn't start with money. I start with this passion that you're hearing today. And I started with recognizing what we already had within our community. And a part of our community is the University of Illinois. And so many times, so oftentimes, like I said, people wait until someone comes and say, hey, here, this is what we have for you. That wasn't the case with myself, which is now Tapia Leadership Academy. We actually did the opposite. I went and knocked on doors and said, hey, I don't have any money, because I really didn't. I don't have any money, but these are our needs, and you have the resources. Is that not the case, Martin Wolski?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. And at the time, I didn't even know anything about a graduate school of library information science and informatics, none of that. It was like, but there was this cool department, and they had the right idea, and that connection was made with $0. So it's not always about the money. The money will eventually come, but we've got to get out there and do the work. We have to recognize the needs first and have the courage to take those steps. So that's what happened. And so with that summer, it was amazing. We had our first space, office, right here on the University of Illinois campus at McKinley Foundation in the basement. We partnered with, again, GISLIS, the College of Education, Engineering Department, oh my gosh, International Studies. I mean, amazing. And not just those scholars, but my own and myself. We were opened up to a whole new world that was right here. And the possibility that the University of Illinois is not that far off from me. It's right here. And we had professionals and professors instructing our scholars. It was amazing, which is why we call them scholars. And nobody wanted to know, like, why y'all calling these kids scholars? They're not in college yet. Okay, I'll tell you. Not everybody asked me at once. I believe in the Proverbs to speak those things that's not as though they were. So it goes back to not waiting until you're there already, seeing it before you get there. So we see our young people as educators. We see them as young scholars, and we continue to call them that to this day. So to see them walking on campus and sitting in university classrooms, amazing. That's why we're where we are today. So where are we today? I'll tell you. Y'all ask great questions. Great questions. So what started off with about 15 scholars and $0? Well, a little bit, because, babe, you were really sweet. You let us use about $1,000 of our $1,000 savings. That's that middle class for you, right? That we really didn't spend, because it was like, yeah, you can use it, but, oh, please don't use it. Use your resources. And we did. So we started off in the basement of McKinley Foundation with about 15 scholars. I told you 3 of them were family members of my own children. So today, we're at 7 of Champaign Unit 4 schools. help me out, Layla, 4 elementary schools, 2 of the middle schools, and 1 of the high schools. We now have a preschool, which is expanding to full Head Start to serve 6-week-olds through 6-year-olds, so we will actually graduate them through kindergarten. We have now a partnership with the Department of Human Services where we serve migrant and seasonal Head Start. Am I missing anything? Oh, the Kickback Lounge. We opened the Kickback Lounge last fall officially, and we partner now with the Champaign County Mental Health Board. And the Kickback Lounge, I'm sorry? Community Coalition, that's right. It's so important. We got to make sure people know who's supporting us, because a lot of people support us. The Kickback Lounge is really a cool space, and it came out of a bunch of kids hanging out at my house. This is the truth. And I'm like, okay, what is this? Like, really? And our middle school daughter would say, hey, Mom, can we go to a kickback? I'm like, what's a kickback? Or, Mom, can we have a kickback at the house? Okay, what's a kickback? Oh, well, just when the kids, we just kind of hang out. I'm like, okay, do y'all need food? Like, do I have to do anything? No, we just hang out. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking 2 or 3 friends. Oh, no, ding dong. Okay, that's 1. Ding dong. Okay, that's 10. Ding dong. Okay, now we're at 15. What the heck? And it's just a space where middle schoolers just hang out at each other's house. Why? There's no real place for middle schoolers to go, because high schoolers don't want them at the parties with them. And I'm in middle school. I'm not hanging with elementary kids. You're like, yeah, I remember those days, right? Exactly. Right? Again, I don't know. That's just my gift. That's my knack of recognizing these unfulfilled empty spaces, these underserved pockets. And so I end up talking to this group of kids. They weren't scholars at the time. They weren't part of Tapia. And I'm like, you know, what's up with this? And they said, you know, we really need a place. And I said, well, if you could have a space, what would it look like? And I grabbed a notepad. Anybody who knows me, you talk to me, I need a notepad. And I just began to jot down. And they talked about the colors and what would be in there. I said, okay, we're going to create a kickback. And that's what we did. And we didn't have any money. And that is the truth. We just set out and knocked on doors. We partnered with, again, Champaign Unit 4 Schools. They leased us at a very affordable rate, a building that they were not using. We went in there, we cleaned it up, we painted, volunteers, and arts class. Say it again. Martin's class, yes. And I want Martin to talk about that because he was really instrumental in setting up the Kickback Lounge. And so now the Kickback Lounge is expanding, and I can't wait to reveal all of that to kind of to the world. But it's huge, and so there's videography, a full music sound production studio lab, things that our middle school students just crave. There's these huge bean bags where they come in and they just lounge. I mean, really. There's a concession stand. Okay, I'm guilty. There is junk food in there, and I know we need to do better. Layla's always on me. We're going to switch that up a little bit.
We're getting healthy vending machines.
We're getting healthy vending machines. I was all for the Cheetos, the hot Cheetos. I'm just saying. Well, you know, we're going to guide them a little bit in what they really like. So we have the Kickback Lounge now. And again, it all started from listening, from talking and saying, hey, what is it that you really need? And so with that, again, going back to our basis of what is really community engagement? What is it? What does that really look like? What does that really mean? Parent involvement, what does all that mean? It just goes back to recognizing the needs, not being afraid to talk to people, not being afraid to knock on doors, kind of getting past the letters behind the name, the letters in front of the name. At the end of the day, we're people. We all have shared needs, because I guarantee you, any parent in this room, any parent watching, will all say, I want the very best for my child. I've never talked to a parent who said, no, I really don't want the best for my child. You can have it for yours. And then I go, okay, give me all of yours. No, chances are, we all want the very best for our children. Now, how do we get there? That's the journey within itself. But we can get there. So I'm going to stop right there. Any questions? Anybody want to add in? Yes.
Can you tell me about your family programs?
Our Family Enrichment Program. Thank you for bringing that up, because it's always been a part of our foundation. I found that family enrichment. Really, most people say parent enrichment, actually. We say family enrichment because we recognize that parents look different for different families. So it's really about engaging the whole family. When we're talking about serving scholars, you really can't serve an individual child or children without being holistic in your approach. That's just the truth. So regardless of my economic status, regardless of where we work, regardless of all of that, there are basic needs. We want the best for our children. We want to make sure we can feed them, clothe them, house them, all that. And so from the very beginning, one of the things that we offered was the food pantry. We partnered with Stone Creek Church and Eastern Illinois Food Bank. And people originally were like, you know, why are y'all doing that? It's a summer program. Well, guess what? After working all day, anybody who works long hours other than myself, I don't feel like cooking. And now some people may judge me because I say I don't feel like it. I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth. And because sometimes the way I work, I don't have an opportunity to go to the grocery store as often as I would like. And another factor, before I get judged too quickly, depending on your income bracket, the government takes a lot more of your money than you actually make and that you actually see. And so there's still some deficits and some holes. And so there's this unfortunate misconception that once you get to a certain place, you no longer need support from your community. That's horrible. Who says that once you, here's a real model, right? Oh, as long as you're down, we'll help get you up. Oh, but now you're getting too far up. I gotta go. But I'm stuck. I still need some support, right? That's a crappy way of family support to me. That's a crappy way. And so we did something as simple as the food pantry, where we recognized that parents that worked and those who did not, or those who were on food subsidy, there were items that they could not purchase with their subsidies, toiletries and things like that. So we worked with the food pantry, because they do provide those type of toiletries and items, so that we can give those to the families. Why? It's not my business to judge the parents. I care about the scholar. But I can't care about the scholar if I don't look at the holistic needs of the families, right? So is it important that these scholars come to the program clean and they need soap? And if I can get soap for them, I'll get soap for them. If I can make sure they have tissue, toothbrush, toothpaste. So we took that approach. And what that did was parents didn't have to stand in a long line, go to churches and give all their information, maintain their integrity, their sense of pride. And what that made them do is want to give, want to help our program, want to make dinners for us. Oh my God, we ate so well. Woo. You know, when you give and offer without the judgment, without the questions, without the raised eyebrows, and people see you just simply genuinely care, it makes all the difference in the world. We still are that way today. That's what our Family Enrichment Program is all about. So thanks for bringing that up. I do want us to talk a little bit about Martin's class, because Tapia could not be where we are now, and this is the truth, without folks like Martin. Martin, you were around from the very beginning, and Chip Bruce and Bishop. And so I want you to brag a little bit about the partnership, because I will say that we're really unique. I mean, I know we are. But I'd like for folks here to hear from you and talk about the differences, because you've been at the university for a little while. And I'm sure you have seen different community partnerships come and go. And Tapia is pretty sustainable. And there's some reasons why. So can you share, or just your experience in that particular class? It was awesome.
All of our partnerships with you, I think what has been so remarkable is that it is a deep collaboration. It is what Chip Bruce and Bishop would call community inquiry. That it was community coming together. It wasn't you, the community, and us outsiders, but there was always that ability to deeply connect and become community together. And you do it by working on different problems together. And I think of Jane and Shamim and some of the early folks that lived their lives at Tapia. And then once in a while came back over to Gislis to do their classwork. But it was such that kind of welcoming, open space. And I think Randy Stoker talks about this in looking at kind of a liberative service learning model, where it is not us serving you and then us learning. It is us allying with you and then we're learning. And that sort of deeper understanding of that commitment for a long-term relationship. And I saw it, with the Kickback Lounge, when we did the informal learning spaces and pedagogies class. James was there every week, and so he's in the class with the students. The students are doing some of the information seeking. But what's really nice is now together, and once in a while, it was even going out to the site to be the Kickback Lounge and touching base with some teens too. And together, we took the information and then did some knowledge creation and figured out how to turn that into action. And I think it's that togetherness and each contributing from our different areas of strength that make that such a special collaborative learning process. And so we're not taking away all the learning and leaving you just with some service. It's that together we're serving each other and together we're learning from each other, and all of us are left better off. And that I so appreciate about Tapin as a partner. That's unique. You don't always see that. And so thank you for that.
No, thank you. It's true. Because, that summer was amazing. I had no idea that existed. And that's what's kind of cool and crazy about Sally K. Carter. Because I don't really know stuff is a thing, community informatics. So I had no idea. I just knew that there was a need. And then the connection happened, like you say, with Shaneem and Angie, and then we connected with Shavon. Just amazing. And so it opened my eyes up and expanded my world, which again allowed us to expand and open the world of the scholars that we serve. And so you see, this idea, these ideologies developing in these middle schoolers' heads, some elementary students already, using this new language. Amazing, amazing.
How did the different kinds of relationships with Unit 4 come about? Well, you approached them and say, hey, I need space. And they said, well, maybe we can work this out? Or it seems like it'd be more complicated than, you've done all of these things, and it's like, how did you make all of these spaces happen? There's so many different, you're serving food in there. Don't you have to have licenses? And when you're starting a PK, don't you have to have certified people and all kinds of regulations? Weren't there all kinds of people saying, hold up there, Sally Carter, you've got to do this first, or you got to do that?
Oh, absolutely.
So I guess I want to hear about kind of some of those obstacles and how you managed to jump over them.
That's a great point. One of the first obstacles actually began with the university, and to be honest, because again, my great idea, and then talked to some folks I knew, and a department or an entity, I'll say, on campus said, sure, come on over. And then literally, the weekend, the week before we were supposed to start, I got word that the lawyers got involved with the university. They said, oh no, you're a liability. What are you working under? And I'm going, what? Again, I didn't know about any of that stuff. And all I knew was that I found out that morning, and that evening I was having my first parent meeting. And talk about anxiety attack. You want to know how I get over them? First I cried, and then I sweated and all that stuff. And then I said, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. So I had that first parent meeting knowing in the back of my mind that I was just told this morning that this is not going to happen. And I still stood there in front of those parents and said, this is going to happen. And we're excited. And their excitement said, okay, got me fueled up. So I got on the phone and started making other connections. And this is the truth. George, it's probably not what you want to hear or what anyone believe, but this is the truth. Went back home, sat in my kitchen bawling. Did I not? Had a real anxiety attack. I didn't even know that existed until I tried to create Tapia Leadership Academy. And then called a friend. And I'll actually say, I called Reese Patterson, Dr. Patterson. And I said, they said I can't have the space. If anybody knows him, and he'll probably see this and he knows I'm not lying. He said, what you crying for? because he said I can't have it. He said, wipe your face, get yourself up. Gave me a couple names of some folks to go in contact, and he said, go get it. Really? I'm like, that is some kind of support, that is. But that's what I did. So he referred me to the McKinley Foundation because some years before, he had started a small school there. So he knew that they were open to this type of thing, okay? So that was a resource. So I went to them, nervous, have no money, and because that is the type of thing that they're open to, they said, come on. Come on to the basement. We've got this room. It's filled with stuff. I went, before I saw it, I said, I'll take it. She said, well, you haven't seen it. I said, it doesn't matter. I'll take it. So she said, okay, we go downstairs. And I went, oh, dear, because it was storage, stuff stacked. I got on the phone, called Shamim, called Angie. We got together. My husband, we went, we cleared that place out. We painted, we cleaned it, and that became our first space. So, yes, I heard no. I heard no a lot. Even when I went to try to partner and get professors and professionals here at the university, one of the first thing I would hear is, what grant are you working out of? And I went, grant? You know, university folks, y'all know y'all some grant writing, grant language talking. Yeah, that's why you keep saying, how'd you do this? I'm like, no money, right? Yeah. And so I'm grant, what do you mean grant? That's all I kept hearing. And so thankfully, I had Shamim and Angie, folks like that, who would teach me the language. See, I didn't wait till I had the language to say, okay, now I'm ready. You know, I had something that y'all folks just didn't have. I'm the community. I am the representation of the need. But y'all folks had stuff that I didn't have as a community, right? So we both had to learn each other's language. So here I am. I've got some university folks they got me. They taught me your language. And then in turn, I taught my university partners our language.
Talk about the conversation we had, the Engagement Scholarship Consortium. Remember that after that presentation?
When we were at lunch? Which time? With Martin, we always...
Well, you went and had that presentation where, I forget where we were at now.
We were at Texas, in Lubbock, Texas. I know it's at Texas Tech. I know it's, or did you not want me to tell me?
And you had the whole experience of presenting to engagement scholars.
Absolutely. So I'm there as myself, and I'm talking about this very thing, you know, getting away from drive-by research and really engaging the community and university and really working together and really tap in the University of Illinois being a model of what engagement really looks like and how well we do it, because we really do it well, Martin, don't we? And this is a testament, because all of you folks we've been working with for years. And so we did our presentation, and we're excited, and we're awesome, and it's a room full of academias, and no one really said much afterwards. So then after that, the next presenter comes up, all right then, and so he gets up and talk about how the folks who actually did the work, they weren't there. I think they had graduated, and all they did was really presented a bunch of slides and a bunch of research after I had just talked about the importance of real engagement. It was horrifying. It was horrible. And then afterwards, no one wanted to even talk to me. Remember that, Martin? Because I didn't have PhD behind my name or doctor in front of my name. It was amazing, and it was crushing, and it was disheartening. And it kind of put me back to the very beginning when I would knock on doors and I would hear, what grant are you working with? What professor are you working with? So many times I felt like I was just a community member. And I think it's that right there that has continued to fuel me, that no, I'm not just anything. Oh, hold up. You know, we have something to offer as a community member. You know, so many students I've worked with completing their PhD. Julian's here right now. You know what? Yes, you could pick someone else to partner with, but at the end of the day, your PhD, those letters, will be associated and affiliated with this community organization. And what he's contributing to us is so valuable, and we'll continue to use it throughout our organization when he's gone on. That's community engagement. Is it lasting? Is it sustainable? So it was crushing. It was crushing. I went back to Martin and went, like, why am I here? It was horrible.
Well, that led to, one, it led to me being on several planning committees, thank you.
Absolutely. I need you, Martin.
and partly was, we had a couple of pre-conferences. I think this is a question for all of us. Mm-hmm. how often do we put the burden on our community partners to learn to speak our language?
Absolutely.
And how little do we spend in the way of effort to learn your all's language?
Absolutely. And in another session, we had someone, and I was appalled, and I think we talked about this as well. There was an administrative assistant, and I think she was the assistant to one of the big directors of a department. And I couldn't believe her honesty. It was like, well, thank you for being transparent, but oh my gosh, because I was once that person who called to ask questions, to inquire, and to get a simple meeting. And she talked about how community folks called and they didn't know what to say or how to ask for the director. And, you know, they didn't say Dr. So-and-so. And I went, how would they know? You could be turning away such awesome opportunities because of the judgment from a phone call. Oh my gosh. But then again, it took me back to the different doors that were closed and slammed in my face. So I didn't focus on that. For every door that was closed, I had a Martin. Another door that was closed, I had a Chip. I had an Ann. You know, I had a Shamim. You know, so I didn't focus on the doors that were closed. And I also made a rule of thumb, if I got to talk to a Chip, I need you to give me 2 or 3 other phone numbers. Give me somebody else. You know, and then there was some studying on my own part as well. You know, it's back to what you said. I had to learn that language as well. You know, let's be fair here. And so I took the time to learn. And I feel like for the past 6 years, I've been learning. I really have. And the learning does not stop. It continues. So that's part of the journey. You were asking about obstacles. I mean, there's so many. I just don't focus on those. I just let that be, okay, if a door is closed, perhaps it wasn't meant that time, that direction, that way, but it will happen. We wanted to go to the Chicago market 2 years ago, and we did. We started a site with a partner, Prospective Charter School, and it was awesome. We had no money. We really didn't, but the school loved what we offered, and they wanted what we had. Thank you so much. They wanted us there, and so they offered us their building. You'd be surprised. And I'll go back to Unit 4 because it's really the same way. So we were able to be in Chicago in 2014. Well, we had no money. We still, you know, we didn't have money to continue it on. Well, we continued to work, continued to write grants. All goes well, we will now be in Chicago next year. So we just keep at it. We keep at it. We keep at it.
And so you're managing all of these different sites and growing all of these spaces for scholars at all different levels, really.
All different levels.
K, or pre through K.
Pre through 12.
Or, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we start, yeah, absolutely. Pre-K. No. Let me be clear. 6 weeks. Babies. Yeah, babies now. Wow. Babies with our, early education. We've expanded. And that will officially open in June. So we started a pre-K program last fall, a partnership with Unit 4 schools. And again, we didn't have money, but we offer great services and programs. And Dr. Wiegand loved the fact that we had the capacity to serve those 4-year-olds that are turning 5, but after September 1st cutoff. So we have 2 classrooms. We had a small grant. We did get some money, a small grant from Community Foundations of East Central Illinois, and it allowed us to open up for a year to serve those students. And so that's where that came from. The licenses, it was hectic, but we got it done because, yes, you do have to be licensed. And so those are processes that we learned along the way. And with that, somehow the state got a hold of our name and thought we did some cool stuff and wanted to partner with us. I'm like, go figure. And so that's how we became a partner with the Department of Human Services through Head Start. So
Things just happen.
it just happened.
This is such an incredible lightning storm right there. I'm loving it.
You're loving it.
The community here, and I'm in a real strange position because I'm a university queen. That's where I did. My kids grew up here at the university. But then we were also in the agricultural community because of our family. There is totally distinctive things here. You've got the university, all the university faculty and the staff and their kids that grew up at the university. Then you have a very small sector of blue-collar workers in this area, very small sector. You've got an incredibly huge sector in the medical area.
Absolutely.
You've got pretty good in the service. Then you've got agriculture. And then, until Chanute closed, you had the military, which was huge here. And all of this completely different things with different ideas, different vocabularies, different culture. And to relate from one to another and to teach and come across out there was extraordinarily difficult, because how do you relate to this person when they have no idea? For example, this is over 20 years ago, our student teacher program out of the college, they had one teacher at Urbana that always did the student teachers, and it came up for her to do the math and science student teachers for a semester. So Ed Sykes said, Doug, you're going in and taking over her responsibilities of teaching her classes so she can supervise. When I went in there and introduced me, these kids freaked out. You're a doctor. You're going to give a shot! Oh my God! They had no idea what we were talking about at all. So how do you communicate the new thing? The other thing what we did, I don't know how many people have ever met or knew Rupert Evans. He was God here at the College of Ed. He was one of my advisors. He did the Evans Continuum. George, I sent some info on that. And his whole thing was the relationship between academic and vocational education. What is a relationship and how do you put this together? And what we had done, and this is in the early 80s in College of Ed, through Phi Delta Kappa and Kappa Delta Pi, we had incredible in-service where we had teachers in the schools teaching the workshop. We had faculty working with them teaching the workshop. And we would have 2 or 3 workshops a month in all the different schools. We'd be in Rantoul one week, be in Champaign, Urbana. We'd be down Salona one week, we'd be over in Danville. And it was just so incredible because back at that time under Rupert, and they had a whole thing called the Rupert Evans Symposiums out of Allerton, where the College of Ed, we went out there for 3 or 4 days, lived there. And it was just totally engaged. And it's so neat to hear some of that coming back, because I've been out there and I've taught everything, and I've gone after I retired, I moved back to Southern, I've taught everything now from kindergarten to graduate school. And it's so unique when you get into the grade schools today between the community difference. You've got university kids versus agricultural kids versus the white collar kids versus that huge segment in our population here that we almost ignore, that have zip, have nothing, you know, what you're talking about trying to address. It's like totally different universes. And how do you bring everybody up to the same level? Because what I've learned over all the years, it doesn't matter whether you're orange, pink, purple, or whatever it is, you have the same requirements in math, science, physics, and English. You have to be able to read, write, and do your math. And what's happened today, and it bugs my craw completely, and we had this in 7th grade, my grandson went into 7th grade, and so we had, you know, come on to, you know, open house and talk to him, because I taught at the school. Okay, you're going to do this. Meet the teacher. You know, we want the teacher to meet his grandfather who taught here. And she didn't have books in her classroom. And it's all on a computer. And I said, how are you going to teach them math without a book? And then I said, how are the kids doing? She said, the kids don't know their multiplication tables. I don't know what I'm going to do in 7th grade math when I start teaching fractions and everything else. So we got something broken. But the need is the same all the way across, but to explain and how to get that across to the individual student or the family is so incredibly different from when we're talking all of us where the kids and the families are the university group versus the agricultural group versus the blue collar versus, I mean, how you can solve the problem or how you get it also what you're talking about doing is like, whoa!
Well, I think for us, we recognize that we're all people, we're all families, we all have basic fundamental needs and concerns, and we're not afraid of our families, and that's a huge piece. We're not afraid to talk to our families on the north end. We're not afraid to talk to our families in Arcola. That's a whole nother world for me. Again, I'm from the west side of Chicago.
They have no idea what Chicago is. That's
absolutely.
That's we don't want to hear, see, or talk Chicago.
Absolutely. And so, but I had to recognize that it was not their responsibility to learn, again, my language. It was my responsibility to learn their language when I'm going into their community and respect their space. And I think understanding that alone, it boils down to respect and understanding individual spaces. With this new program, with the Head Start program, the Migrant Seasonal Head Start that we're doing, as soon as I knew that we were going to be doing that, the first thing I did was I went to Parkland and I signed up for Spanish. I had my first Spanish class this past Wednesday. Why would I do that? I mean, I'm the CEO of Tapia Leadership Academy. I probably won't be in a classroom working directly with the scholars. But guess what? My families will know me. They will see me. That's who we are. And I want to be able to learn to communicate with them, not force them to communicate with me. So I already have a plan. For the next 2 years, the next 6 semesters, I will be taking a Spanish class, and I will progress so that I can communicate with them. It's imperative.
Where will Tappan be in 5 years?
Ooh.
It was 5 years ago you were here, you know, and I don't want to get, what's that?
South Africa.
South Africa?
We would like to have a site in South Africa, a school in South Africa, actually. Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't talk about your foundation, understanding and appreciating your foundations without appreciating my own. I don't even know if I'm originally from South Africa. I just kind of feel in my bones that I am, and I'm going to find out. However, I do have a pull to South Africa, and so if I can put it out there, where would I like to see Tap In? I would like to see a school in South Africa. I absolutely would. Wow. So any universities out there, any partners, we don't have any money, but we can make this happen. We can make this happen.
That's good to know. You know,
Right.
people from South African universities have come by, you know, from time to time. My mind is...
That's okay. Well, let's get together, Martin. All of you, let's get together.
Got 2 or 3 names.
All right. Well, I'm still trying to build here. You know, I'm trying to get things. As a delegate, I'll say this. So I'm now a delegate for Migrant Seasonal Head Start. There are only 8 of us in the state. And so what that has done, I am now a delegate, and I cover Champaign County, Douglas County, and Vermilion County. So we are starting to make connections with folks in Danville. We will have a site in Danville area. We are going back to Arcola, which is Douglas County.
Those are 2 totally different universities.
Two totally different worlds, but the need is the same. And agriculture is in Vermilion and Douglas County, just as well as here. So we are expanding our sites into those 2 counties as well. So let me get Central Illinois solid and grounded. That's what Julian is doing with our, you know, pre-evaluation stuff and making sure we're on point. And then South Africa. So y'all help us do that. Help us get to South Africa.
Inspirational.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much.